Midnight music. 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 Midnight music.
All right, so you were saying, all right, so go back because we were talking about Slammies right now.
Yeah, I was just looking at some of the Slammy Award deals, and on two categories in 1987, they have no winners, which includes Song of the Year and Manager of the Year. Are you kidding me?
Okay, all right, so we know Manager of the Year was, hey, Frets, we know Manager of the Year was a snafu because somebody should have won between, it was Heenan, Fuji, and Slick, right?
Heenan Fuji, Jimmy Hart, and Slick. Yeah.
Yeah, somebody should have won that, depending on what happened that year. But go back to, you said, so Song of the Year in
Yes, we
in
had
the 87, was it 87 Slammy?
87.
All right, Song of the Year to 87 Slammy. There was no winner identified by Wikipedia.
On here it says no winner, envelope eaten by Sika. Oh, that would explain it.
Envelope eaten by
So
who?
by Sika,
By Sika. You're not even
which
trying anymore to con an industry plant, really? You're gonna get your Jason Whitlock on? Like, do better. Um,
right.
okay, so who's the categories for best song or
Um,
song of the year?
oh, okay. So we had Jimmy Hart performing "Girls in Cars," the Honky Tonk Man, just I guess all of his
I guess the
stuff.
Honky Tonk Man song or whatever it is.
Yeah, Coco Beware because it's Coco Beware,
Mm-hmm.
and Vince McMahon performing "Stand Back."
How Stand Back wasn't a winner is beyond me, and that's just for irony. Uh, Stand Back would be great.
Well, we'll never know because it's in the well now it's out of the intestines of Sika, but
I mean, it should be. It was almost, well, 30 some odd years ago, so it should be out of there right now. 37.
yeah, should have been out of there probably like at least maybe a few months afterwards, but that's neither here nor there. So
Fretz is saying 97 Slammies had a Best Bow Tie Award that Owen Hart won.
okay, I'm gonna look that up really quick here. Um, well, it's also really
Oh,
funny
he
on here.
stole the award, sorry, and became a two-time Slammy winner.
I do remember that. I do remember watching that, thinking that's amazing.
What a nugget.
I will
What a
say,
nugget.
so 1994 Slammies, they have a best and worst tag team, which is the same exact winners for both of them, and that was Diesel and Shawn Michaels.
Best and worst tag. What year was that?
1994.
That sounds about right. They were still stuck in the 80s in 94.
Yeah, but you know.
My God. I don't know how you went down a Slammy's rabbit hole, but keep going for right now. Before we get this show started, guys, welcome
Oh,
to the KOTR Meat Slabbing Majesty
hi guys.
pre-show at the moment. Nate, Real Effing Game from the Brace for Impact podcast is joining me this week. We got a lot of fun stuff to talk about, but first and foremost, as you guys see in the middle of the screen, we are nominated for Best Wrestling Podcast by the Sports Podcast Awards.
Whoop,
To
whoop.
vote, yes, please, yes, thank you for that. Make sure you get your vote in. Link is going to be in the first link that you see in the description below. It should be, yeah, it's there. It's the first link in the description below. Click on that, give us a vote, tell all your friends, like, share, subscribe, all that fun stuff. Click it in the link below. But most importantly, get your vote out for this show because we would really appreciate it. And I want to beat Conan. is really
as
is
long
really
as
what I want to
as
do.
as long as they just show like the results and they show that you beat Conan there, I think that's
Yeah,
still
right.
no matter what.
I only say that because I say that. So on so when the Sports Podcast Awards like Twitter account like blasted all of us out saying we were all nominated and stuff, which was cool. I ended up following all the other podcasts, solidarity and whatnot. So randomly over the weekend, and I'd followed them like well over like week and a half ago. What up, Big Ted? So randomly over the weekend, the War Twitter account at Addict Wrestle, by the way, gets a DM at like 4:30 in the morning from Conan.
Oh my
Or
god.
the account that's connected to Conan. And it says, "Do you listen to our podcast?" And I woke up in the morning and I was like, I don't know if I should answer this. So, Conan, if you're seeing this, we're leaving you on red on purpose because it's really weird to be DMing another podcast at 4:30 in the morning on the East Coast. like,
Right.
like it just came out of the blue, and I don't know how to respond to that at all whatsoever. Uh, so yeah, that's the weird Conan story. So at this point, I guess he was, I don't know what it was, but we're gonna try to beat him now. I guess
well,
that's where it is.
well, I think that between Conan and I think also the Kurt Angle show was a part of that lineup as well.
Yes, you know, Kurt.
So,
Yes.
well, no, that was a long time ago when he was a Perk Angle.
yeah.
Although you could argue that even with him being retired and all, he's still technically Perk Angle with that one meme shot of him in front of a
One of the
house.
most memeable faces ever. Big Tet, Big Tet, we're doing good. How are you doing, my dude? I don't know if I know a Big Tet from a previous stuff. I don't know. We've done a lot of shows in my time. So well over 300 that I've been a part of. I for the most part, yeah. Which is kind of wild to think about. Best meme face in the best meme game. Wait, so Fretch, you got a DM from K Dog. He claimed to have shouted me out on his pod. Well, Big Tet, you have found the place. Welcome to King's Rings Pockets. We talk about wrestling pretty much all the time, every week. So thank you for joining us. We're going to be here pretty much weekly or bi-weekly, depending on the wrestling news cycle. Luckily for us, in the last 2 weeks, since the last time we were here talking about Wrestle Kingdom, we've got some pretty big news to talk about. A lot of people moving, a lot of possibilities popping up, especially as we get into Mania season, which is like less than a week away, less than a week from Saturday, actually.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, that's going to be fun. So yeah, if you check out all of our links below in the description, Big Ted, like, share, subscribe, leave us 5-star reviews. Oh no, yeah, give us a vote. That image in the middle of the pre-show is not a fake. That was given to us because we are nominated for Best Wrestling Podcast. So yeah, please do that, Big Ted. Where are you from, Ted? Let's get to know you a little bit. We got 5 minutes before the show starts. What's going on, Ted? I don't know how bad Sep's injury is, and knowing Sep, it's not going to matter because he's been faking a bad back for a very long time. So...
Well, somebody made the joke about Seth Rollins broke his back by carrying this damn company for so many years. I'm like, you know what? Back in 2015, I could believe that with Seth Rollins.
Oh, did we get a bot here? Chatbots, followers. Wow. See you later, guy.
I just offer promotion. What? There's no promoting you.
He offered us chatbots too.
That's crazy. But
you're from Hagerstown? Ah, look at that. Your dad grew up with LA Knight. Yeah. So funny story, dude. I went to Towson University down in Towson, Maryland. So I know all about your area, little Hagerstown. I have some friends from Hagerstown, I think. So good, nice to hear a little Maryland guy in the building.
Yeah, I can't relate to that story. So
yeah.
I live in I live in the frozen Midwest where we are freezing our asses off.
Literally, the entire United States is frozen at the moment.
That is true. Except for Canada. This is basically a Tuesday for them.
Pretty much. Fred can confirm that, and he lives on a beach.
Right.
For the most part. I'm glad I got those throw blankets in when they did. Who's our favorite wrestler? Oh, that's a loaded question. We should be asking you that, actually. But yeah, I don't favorite wrestler currently. All time. It's Taker. Currently, let's see. Currently it's Cody for me because why the hell not?
Cody's amazing. All time will be The Rock for me. Currently. I think currently Josh Alexander from TNA. Just
He had a great
Powerful
match.
comp.
He had a great match
He
on Saturday.
Yeah, phenomenal matchup. Just two beefy boys meet slap meet
Meat
slapping
slapping
majesty.
majesty, just like the pre-show says. That's correct.
That was the definition of meat slapping majesty. Was those with him and Alex Hammerstone. That was
Yes.
phenomenal.
Hello, Smiley. Welcome to the show. We got a
Hello.
yes, all-time Seth Sin Cara currently Seth. I have no idea what that means. I don't know if Sin Cara is Seth or if Seth is Sin Cara, but
I was about to say, are we talking original Sin Cara or are we talking about
I don't think Seth was original Sin Cara.
I mean, how funny would that have been if he wore the Sin Cara get up with just that yellow bra and streaked hair poking out of the mask?
That would have been fantastic. Would have been fantastic. But Big Ted, before we get the show on the road, this is a live show. So our intro, or my sound guy usually who does the intro and the music and stuff is not here. So it's all going to be pretty much just straight vocals for right now. I'm going to do Seth and Sin Cara tied. That's a huge, right? I totally threw me off my thing. But that is one of the wildest things I've ever seen. Oh, that's Sin Cara. I've never known anybody who was a Sin Cara fan. Like a diehard Sin Cara. I met Sin Cara number 2. Sin Cara number 2 was fun.
Well, yeah, wasn't that
That was Hunico.
that was Hunoko? Thank you.
Yeah.
For some reason, I was thinking Camacho. I'm like, no, that's not right.
No, it's not Camacho. It was Hunico. But anyway, as I was saying, yeah, this is a live show. Sound guy who usually does it. My co-host Willie T is not here, so it is all going to be just straight vocals with pretty much no music in between. I am going to edit this after the live stream is over and re-release this out on YouTube with the edited full, audio and vocals in the finalized version of this podcast, and then in a video form, and it'll also be released in audio out on Spotify and all your other major podcast. I said Spodcast. Yeah, all your major pod. It's been 2 weeks since I've done a show. All your major podcast listening sites will get the finalized audio version of this. Spare me.
2 weeks you've done a show and you decided to have me on the show. This is going to be a beautiful train wreck.
It's going to be an easy peasy lemon squeezy show. I know about most of what we're talking about. Quick talking points. A whole bunch of other fun stuff going on. And we have a great crowd here. Big Ted is here for the first time. Fretch is here. Smiley is back. And we have a big major show announcement for next week as well. Surprise, surprise. Which is just developing this day as we speak. Because I woke up and I was like, I have an idea. But it's literally when I get most of my ideas. I wake up like, oh, that sounds right. And I just go with it and all of that stuff. So I hope you're ready, Nate. I don't even know what I'm going to say on the intro, but I hope everybody's ready for me to wing it. Like, actually, I do every single time I do a show. I'm winging a lot of the stuff. Spoiler alert, hint, hint, wink, wink. So, yeah, let's get this show on the road. Nate, are you ready, sir?
Let's go.
Yes, it's going to be a lot of silence until I decide to speak again, and then we'll get the show on the road. You'll be fine with it. Anyway,
you'll come.
You'll figure it out. You'll come to terms with it. You'll be all right. Get your mind out of a gutter. Yeah. Anywho, we're gonna start this show starting in 5, 4, 3, 2. Not like VR. 5, 4, 3, 2. Coming up this week on Kings of the Rings podcast, if you are not a diehard wrestling fan in 2024, I don't know what to tell you. Wrestling is at an all-time high, and the competition around all major wrestling promotions is kind of balanced, so there is a little bit of a power struggle going on. Join me, King Rickie Rose, and Nate the Effing Great from the Brace for Impact podcast as we discuss this newly formed balance of power within the pro wrestling world. Ladies and gentlemen, it is episode 365, Power Struggles of Kings of the Rings podcast, exclusively here on Wrestle Addict Radio, and it starts right now. And hello, everybody. Welcome again to Kings of the Rings podcast. I am your host, King Rickie Rose. Thank you guys for joining us again for another episode of Kings of the Rings podcast, the award-nominated Kings of the Rings podcast. Yes, that's right, folks. If you haven't heard, KOTR has been nominated for Best Wrestling Podcast by the Sports Podcast Awards. Make sure you please like, share, subscribe, and most importantly for right now, give us a vote by clicking the first link in the description below of this podcast. Again, I am your host, King Rickie Rose. With me this week, one of my brethren from the Wrestle Addict Radio Podcast Network. He is the host of the Brace for Impact Wrestling podcast, covering all things Impact, well, formerly Impact, and now revamped to TNA. Ladies and gentlemen, Nate the effing Great. How are you, sir?
It is good to hear those letters TNA back in the fold again. It's a beautiful weekend. I will also say this, that I think it was it was not this past weekend, but the weekend before, there was a show, House of Glory. There we go. They actually they actually had their show named Brace for Impact. So I had to make sure to let them know, hey, it's fine. I'm not suing for royalties. I'm one of those guys who believes that we can work together as a wrestling family and do cool stuff. So by all means, plus they had Josh Alexander on their show. So I'm like, you know what? That's fine. That's fine. Just do what you got to do.
I mean, somebody's got to use the Brace for Impact or the Impact name as well now, but it's pretty much gone in and of itself. Funny thing about House of Glory, but I found out today. So they have decided to start selling their heavyweight championship belt, like replicas of it.
Really?
Mm-hmm. It's a nice looking belt. It's one of those things, like if you are a true belt collector, like I tell myself I am, but I'm not, I don't have the money to call myself a true belt collector, but I do have several that are hanging around this place where I stay. The House of Glory one is something that you would like get just to say you have it. You know what I mean? It's kind of like a clout thing almost. You're like, oh yeah, I got the WWE Championship, the European title, and the House of Glory replica title. Like it's kind of like this really random rare find. You know what I mean?
Well, now that you've put it into the fold, I'm going to be looking up at this belt and seeing how much this thing is actually going to be. Because if it's my price range, I might actually buy it.
I think pre-sale's going at 400, so that's up for you.
Oh shit!
Yeah. The Cheez-It titles, don't listen. I agree. The Cheez-It title would be absolutely hysterical, especially if it comes with Cheez-Its, but I don't think it does. But listen, if you're a true belt collector, like a House of Glory title would be great. I also want, I was talking about this earlier with one of our other co-hosts, Kay, talking with them about like what new belt I'm going to get for WrestleMania, because I will be in Philly for WrestleMania. I'm probably yes, it's a great time, and so more than likely I'm going to be purchasing my Airbnb or reserving my Airbnb. For all of that fun stuff to happen and go along. NHL and WWE are collabing for replica titles. Allegedly. We will definitely see how that goes. But speaking of alleged stuff and a little bit of breaking news, the first thing we're talking about today is something that came up on socials all over the place regarding WWE 2K24. This photo that you see if you're watching us on video has popped up all over the place on all of their socials with WWE 2K24 1/22/24. Ladies and gentlemen, that is this upcoming Monday. As you guys know, WWE 2K series has been around for literally about a decade at this point, giving us a lot of great highlights, like a lot of their famous story modes, the beat up John Cena edition, Rey Mysterio story mode. There's a couple times where you can go through the history of WrestleMania or the history of the Attitude Era, another great modes. It recently brought back GM mode for the last couple of years, a mode that I play a lot of. They do their creation suite is pretty much unmatched between anything that they do. And recently, in the past couple of years, WWE's 2K game has come out around WrestleMania, which is a total shift because it used to come out in the fall. Now they moved it back to align with WrestleMania, which from a business perspective is a great marketing move. Now, there has been nothing said until, a couple of hours before this recording about the WWE 2K franchise. Nothing has been leaked. not even a cover art or anything. So my question for you, Nate, is this here. What could we be expecting this upcoming Monday with regards to WWE 2K24?
So I think that it's going to be, if the past has shown us anything, is that they have definitely learned from their mistakes from 2K20, because
That's for sure.
that was one of the biggest disappointments, as well as the biggest shit show that I think I've seen as far as video games go. But as far as this goes, I don't know what else you can really do. I mean, we've had people in our Discord chat. Definitely check that out if you get a chance, especially nowadays. Oh, jeez. I mean,
Game
last
night,
20,
baby, game night.
it's, oh, we got so much planned for that. Um, but speak of that, it's, I just don't know what to really think about this, because we've had people suggest, ideas for what could happen, possibly like a Bray Wyatt legacy storyline being put into there, which I think would be great. I think that'd be a great way to honor like great Bray Wyatt. I know that there's some people that are just saying like, oh, we want this back in wrestling games. We want this back in wrestling games, and there's always so much that they can do before they just completely run out of ideas. So I think right now it's just all going to depend on how well they can make this work. Because I mean, the fact that they're doing this now in spring instead of in the fall might concern me a little bit, because they might be rushing it, but I'm hoping that's not the case.
I don't think they're rushing it because they've been in this cycle for a couple of years now. So now it just happens to be kind of a norm for them. There was that Francis right. There was a picture of a referee shirt posted. Was the next thing that they posted. I don't know what in the world that means, and I think it was a shirtless referee shtick as well. Is interesting. The Bray Wyatt thing would also be something worth considering. Maybe they do a special edition Bray Wyatt, because they usually do multiple editions,
Sure.
or which is always a great thing to have. My big thing that I would really want is just a more improved GM mode, in particular, because I'm a big GM mode guy. I've got a long-standing GM mode. Like I'm so serious with GM mode because I've been playing with one of our good friends of a show, Sir Charles, on PlayStation, via PlayStation Share. But like we have a running like Excel sheet for our rosters, who's champions, who the like. I take this very seriously. I've literally played GM mode for like I wasted a Saturday playing GM mode. Okay, and that wasn't even time wasted whatsoever. So I want to see some revamps of GM mode, in particular online co-op for GM mode, because it's clear it's not an online mode, but it needs. I would love online co-op. I'd also love cross-platform play for GM mode and just get real crazy with it. But for this upcoming Monday, I'm going to temper my expectations here. I think we are just getting a cover athlete. That's what I
Yeah.
think we're getting.
Yeah. No, I think that's a safe bet.
Yeah, I think we're getting a cover athlete reveal, which is perfectly fine. We'll know more about the games in the upcoming months. Again, perfectly fine, because by the time this game comes out, it's gonna sell like crazy at WrestleMania. I think that's the timing with it. Be that as it may, since we both agreed that as a cover athlete, I'm gonna give it to you again, Nate, since you're the only one here next to me. Who's the cover athlete?
I think it's going to be Cody. I think that it's going to be somebody who's been really prominent throughout the year. And honestly, this has been a really good Cody year.
Mm-hmm.
And God, this would be one of those things where it would be the biggest tease if they made him the cover of the game and then not have him win the title at WrestleMania. That'd be one of those things where, like, you cannot be serious. You cannot do that to him twice in a row. This cannot be a twice in a lifetime deal. But between Cody, I think also you could do, maybe you could do Jey Uso. I think he'd be like the second best one, or maybe LA Knight would be another one that you could put on there. It's usually one of the most prominent stars, but they've already done Roman Reigns, so I think that he's out of the mix. They've done John Cena, so I think he's out of the mix. Randy Orton is out of the mix. AJ Styles is out of the mix. I think that they definitely try to make sure that it's somebody that's a big name, but somebody that they haven't really done.
Yeah. It's not Gunther Fretz. As much as you love Gunther, it's not going to be him.
Oh, that
Yeah.
maybe in a couple years, but not
In a
right
couple
now.
of years. You know, when you're thinking of a cover, you're thinking of like company guys and big faces. You know, you had your Cenas, your Randys, your Punks. These guys, Stone Cold was a cover once. These guys were all big faces of the company. Rey Mysterio, huge face for the company, huge face for wrestling in and of itself. I agree with Cody. Seth has been a cover already.
Yes.
Roman has also been a cover. Becky was a cover. Roman and Becky were the same cover, and that was a disaster every year. Bray would be great, you know, posthumous thing, which would be great. The Rock has also been a cover, by the way. My front runner's Cody. Because he's the perfect face for your company right now. This also solidifies that Cody would win at Romania in some way, shape, or form. Because you can't have your cover athlete of your video game lose on your biggest show.
No.
Which would scare me. So, like, why would you put Cody on there? Because that kind of, to me, you know, being a market. So I think that gives it away. It gives away the finish. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's
I
a toss-up, but like Cody, I don't know who else would it be, but Cody would be my front runner. I think Taker was a cover once as well. I almost said Taker. Goldberg's been a cover. Sting was a special edition. Yeah, it might be Cody. I don't know anybody. Charlotte. Charlotte could be a cover.
I feel like the internet world would be burning a little bit because of that, because I think they're kind of sick of Charlotte.
I
But
mean,
at the same time,
I give sympathy for Charlotte. She got injured when she shouldn't have been.
I know you said face, but at the same time, she could still fit the bill because she is kind of the more popular of the. What about Rhea Ripley? I think she might be a great cover.
The mommy edition. Yeah, no, she would be a great cover. If the mommy edition, yeah.
I just remember. I think that's going to be a DLC for 24 now.
Of course. If all the 4 horsewomen were still together in the same company, I would do a 4 horsewomen edition because that would be fantastic. Yeah. You're missing one person, and that would be a giant conflict, but I would love for that to happen. Maybe Jinder. He's on a streak right now.
I mean,
he's a hot guy.
He had a pretty match.
It was a fine match. The R-Troop is also could be a great one. The R-Troop edition.
Man.
That's a good one, Fretz.
I will say, if he is not the cover this Monday, I will be sad. But at the same time, it's like, okay, R-Truth for 2025.
Yeah, right now. I'm down for the Maharaja edition of WWE 2K. I'm all for it. I'm very much all for it. Or actually, fuck it. Do a New Day.
Ooh, New Day would be really good.
A New Day edition would be amazing.
Oh. Actually, the story showcase mode for New Day would be pretty damn good, actually.
It'd be good. You've never had a tag team on the cover of a video game. It'd be great. Metal's not big enough to be on the cover, Fretch. Now you're just grasping at straws. You know. But it would be crazy. Was HBK a cover?
I don't. No, he was. He was
a cover, right?
Him and Triple H, 2009, I want to say, when they started doing like the tag team deal.
Okay. Was that under a 2K thing though?
No.
See, I'm going for 2K only. I don't think 2K09 exists, but I don't know. Don't quote me on that. I was still in college when that happened.
No, it's still been under the SmackDown versus Raw.
I figured.
Phase.
Yeah. So I'm interested to see what happens. I'll be glued to see what goes on. I'm telling you, it's probably a cover athlete, and if they're smart, they'll just debut it on Raw. Speaking of other big news coming out of WWE, now the last time we were here, last time we had the show, we discussed in particular that TNA was changing the name of their pay-per-views to premium live events because they have the streaming service, so on and so forth. And at that time, Triple H had announced that he had a big announcement that upcoming Thursday. We all thought was a TNA related because they changed the premium live events. There was a lot of speculation. It just so happened that he's announcing Money in the Bank going to Canada. Not only Money in the Bank in Canada that weekend, they're also going to have 4th of July weekend. So, happy Canada Day, guys. You guys get Money in the Bank.
Hey.
Yeah, so 4th of July weekend in the States. In particular, Friday, July 5th will be that SmackDown. Saturday, July 6th will be Money in the Bank. And Sunday, NXT gets NXT Heatwave. It is a 2 premium live event weekend for WWE as a whole, as a brand. I'm very interested if this is just an experiment or we're going to continue to do this with the big show. Not well, it's a big show, but with the major show, it popped in my head as soon as I said it. With the major show being the Saturday show and the Sunday show kind of being like a matinee show. I'm very interested to see how kind of this fares, in particular for NXT. SmackDown and Money in the Bank, you're not going to have an issue. Money in the Bank is essentially the 5th major, no matter what anybody tries to tell you. I'm interested to see how NXT fares on this weekend, being like the matinee show, but like, quote unquote, like, the true marks will stay around for and how well they do. But what are your thoughts, Nate, on this announcement of Money in the Bank weekend in Toronto?
Well, first of all, Triple H, stop being a tease. We know that's happening on Thursdays. And I was so hoping that we were going to have like a TNA WWE kind of like working partnership. I mean, they're working with New Japan, so why not? Honestly, I think that this is going to be a good weekend, especially for Canada. I mean, you got Money in the Bank, which is definitely one of the now part of the big 5 that WWE is doing.
I would agree.
And you have, NXT going back to Canada. Need I really say more? I mean, DIY, Revival, NXT TakeOver.
Toronto.
I mean, what do I really need to say more than that? It's going to be fire. It's going to be really good. And there's a lot of possibilities that can really go into this. Do they go for like the heel? Do they give Dominic the briefcase finally? Or maybe do they give it to Sami Zayn? That would be kind of an interesting deal. I mean, I feel like Sami Zayn is going to be a world champion within the next year or 2. It's just a question of whether he's going to win Money in the Bank or if he's going to win the Rumble next year. That's my thing.
Yeah, Sami's a good candidate. I mean, when you talk about NXT TakeOver Toronto, you also had Mickie James versus Asuka, I think was that card.
That's right.
As well as one of the best openers of a takeover at a time. I should really do like a takeover retrospective, like Patreon exclusive or something. I have to think about that. But you had the Perfect 10 Ty Dillinger versus Bobby Roode to start the show. Roode came out with an all-children's choir singing Glorious. It's an awesome beginning to that pay-per-view at the time. Absolutely awesome.
I literally just said, now all we need is Bobby Roode to appear like he's walking on water, and then we'll have the greatest entrance of all time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I mean, Sami winning in Toronto would be fantastic. It's just a matter of if he's there, or Kevin winning the Money in the Bank in Toronto. Like any Canadian winning in Toronto would be absolutely wild. But more on that when we get there, because that is literally like 6 months away. We've got to get through Mania. And once Mania hits, I feel like the entire landscape of WWE, no pun intended, is going to absolutely change for the better. By the way, for the better. 2024 is a great year. But speaking of changing for the better,
this is the greatest.
What an absolute bonkers Saturday it was last weekend. TNA did their first pay-per-view under the TNA brand again, called Hard to Kill. How fitting. I was able to, fortunately, be able to watch it alongside some of my Wrestletic Radio brethren in the Discord, and we had a ball of a time. And now, leading up to this, TNA was boasting about how they had some big surprise, some big contract signing, and everything. The show went off essentially for the most part without a hitch. There were some TNA things being TNA, but everything looked great. Everybody, for the most part, all the matches were top notch and really, really good. And it's making me become a TNA fan.
Yeah.
It's making me become a TNA fan. Their belts look fantastic. And so Moose ends up winning the whole damn thing. Wins the TNA Heavyweight Championship. Rightfully so. Moose has been there for ages and ages. You got to give it to somebody. Give it to Moose. And he very quickly after the match gets mic checked, by the man formerly known as Dolph Ziggler. Nick Nemeth shows up, super kicks the crap out of moves, runs into the crowd, rips off his shirt, and reveals that he has officially signed with TNA. Now, previously, 2 weeks ago, he was at New Japan Wrestle Kingdom, attacked David Finlay, the global heavyweight champion, and said that he wants to go after him in New Japan as well. So, Dolph Ziggler, the man formerly known as Dolph Ziggler, a surefire WWE Hall of Famer somewhere down the road when he's done wrestling. And got to give the man his flowers. He's a fantastic performer. I challenge anybody to find a bad Dolph Ziggler match, and I'll be waiting for a while. You know, in my own personal opinion, I thought he got a very unceremonious release for someone who had a lot of accolades as his time in WWE. And I kind of felt for him for that, because it felt like they kind of just threw him to the curb, and I understand why, but I felt like he could have been sent off in a better light from a television and storyline perspective. But I have a feeling Dolph Ziggler is going to go on this classic run that we've seen throughout the years. Cody did it. Drew did it. Matt Cardona's in the middle of doing it. Trinity has done it. Sasha Banks, Mercedes Varnado has been doing it as well. I think Deonna Purrazzo to an extent did it. And we're going to talk about Deonna a little bit later. I think he's the next big guy who's going to run rampant on the indies in his post WWE release and just, number one, bet on himself and create a much bigger aura around him than what was going on with him in WWE towards the end. So, first and foremost, congratulations, Nick Nemeth. I think Nick Nemeth, Dolph Ziggler, just made TNA watchable again. And it comes on tomorrow on Thursday. I know that. I have Access TV. It does come on tomorrow. I might be watching it. But for you, Mr. Nate, the TNA guy for Wrestle Addict Radio, how do you feel about this?
So, after watching the show on Discord with you guys, it was literally one of those things where after we saw Moose win the title, it was the legit shock of the night for me, and I was like, okay, this is going into a different deal. And then we see the Titantron change, and then we see the red, and then we see the name Nick Nemeth. I'm thinking to myself, wait, he's not. As soon as I see him, I'm like, oh my god, this is not the greatest TNA sighting, but right now, current day, this is one of the best that they had.
Absolutely.
To work for that. And the fact that, TNA is now in a point where they need to have that kind of star power. They need to have that kind of recognition from modern day fans to be like, oh, hey, that's Dolph Ziggler. What's he going to do? Have that kind of deal where they have the familiarity and kind of bridge that gap between, TNA fans and modern wrestling fans that are on the indies, or some of the dumb people that are on their Twitters wanting to troll everybody, to really look at it and be like, okay, so there's something special here with TNA. Let's watch and see what that is. And Hard to Kill was the best first step. Seeing Dolph Ziggler, Nick Nemeth be in that ring and hearing the crowd reaction literally go crazy, and then him doing basically a Hulkamania deal, ripping off that shirt and showing he's part of TNA. I'm just like, oh my god, this is amazing. It didn't make me cry, but it was just like one of those things where I was just giddy, happy, and like, yes, this is the best first step for all of the bad stuff that they had to deal with. And TNA went through so much shit. I mean, Vince Russo multiple times, Hulk Hogan, Eric Bischoff, Dixie Carter, the whole Owl Anthem deal. They went through so much deal. It is like the event said, TNA is hard to kill. They have survived longer than WCW wish that they could survive. Oof. And they are just continuing to find a way to strive and still find a way to be relevant. And this is another one of those moments where they did that.
Yeah, man. I mean, I've always said that, and I've said this for years on doing this show, TNA is the roach that survives the apocalypse. Somehow, some way, they always find a way to make it, to be relevant and still do something good with their time. And I think there's a big difference here. Because at this point, with all this good faith coming towards TNA right now, they can easily start to chip away at AEW's perceived number two spot in the pro wrestling world and sports and entertainment. They really could, because they are starting to balance out the power in pro wrestling. WWE's might be your network good, might always be number one, but that 2 and 3 and even 4, NWA still has a TV deal with CW coming. By the way,
Well,
as of right now, it's still happening. As of right now, it is still happening. There's a that 2, 3, 4 in American pro wrestling companies is upper ground. I can even throw MLW in there with Riddle signing. It's a fun time to be an American wrestling fan in 2024. It is absolutely insane. But the difference with TNA and their signings, you might agree with me, with now with Nick Nemeth versus when they first came around, Nick Nemeth is still in his prime. When TNA was grabbing people, maybe outside of Kurt Angle, because Kurt Angle got let go for obvious drug use and other reasons, and maybe even Sting but Nick Nemeth can still go at a very high rate, I would say, for another 5 years. Unlike some of the signings that they had, the first go around from other big names who might have been on their last leg. I mean, hell, Foley came back for no reason. Flair was there.
The Nasty Boys were even there.
Exactly. So I think they're figuring it out, and Dolph Ziggler is the best get that they were probably ever going to get for them. So congratulations, Dolph. Congratulations to TNA. I might start watching. Not gonna lie. Also, on that show, something that we do need to talk about. She came out in a limo. No one knew who the hell she was. Until you looked at her and like, oh crap, it's Dana Brooke, now known as Ash by Elegance. Not a fan of the name, but she's there. Dana Brooke, or Ash by Elegance, as we'll call her, as what her name wants to be. She recently went on a podcast and talked about how she's happy for her release because she essentially felt that she was sidelined by WWE, which I can understand, and that they didn't really see potential in her, so she never got a chance to show us what she could really do. This is a common thread that happens with a lot of people who were released. They felt that they were sidelined. They felt that there was nothing, they couldn't show what they can do in the pro wrestling world. And she might be right, and this is her chance right now in TNA to prove WWE wrong. She could potentially, again, go on a run that shows the rest of the wrestling world what her worth is. And by all accounts, give her a shot. I felt her NXT run at the end was kind of cut short, unfortunately. Budget cuts, whatever you want to call that. But Ash by Elegance, Dana Brooke, I'm rooting for her. I've always felt like she had a lot of potential. I was able to meet her once in Orlando for WrestleMania. Very nice person, very kind person. So all the best with her. However, with that being said, she is in arguably the best women's division in all of pro wrestling, year in and year out, in the knockouts division. So if she's going to prove her worth and that she, belongs in pro wrestling, this is the best place for her to be in the knockouts division. Nate, what are your thoughts on the other TNA signing of Dana Brooke, formerly known as Dana Brooke, now known as Ash by Elegance?
I think this is a very interesting get, and I know a lot of people have been making jokes about her appearance at the show, how she almost
she does look like timeless Toni Storm.
But one of the things that I have definitely heard, and I'm going to do a quick shout out to another podcaster, Solomonster Sounds Off. He actually made a really good point about this, is that she hasn't done anything yet. So give her a chance to at least bring that character out before we judge whether or not she is the Wish version of timeless Toni Storm. Because when I looked at her, I didn't think to myself, oh, that's a knockoff of timeless Toni Storm. I looked at it more as like, okay, she kind of thinks of herself as kind of like this pampered, kind of Richie kind of deal, which is different from what timeless Toni Storm is doing. Timeless Toni Storm, let's face it, she is basically being the Marilyn Monroe of wrestling.
She's being golden era Hollywood, yes.
She's being freaking amazing at it. But like I said, we don't know what Ash is going to do. And we don't know what her character is like until we see probably, TNA tomorrow night, or maybe before the months are over. We don't know, but honestly, I think it's a good pickup. She was one of the reasons why the 24/7 title was even relevant to begin with. Let's face it. Like that last strand of being like, oh, we got to do something. Let's put it on Dana Brooke and see what happens. It's like, you know what? She actually made that title more prestigious than what it needed to be, which was exactly what Nikki Cross did, was trash it.
Yeah.
But no, she created some really good moments with that. She was given something, and she took crap and made something really nice with it. So
Yeah, she
I,
has character with her, and I think there
yes.
is. She has character. She's been entertaining in multiple ways. When she was part of Titus Worldwide and she was like the secretary or the stat girl, I thought she was perfect.
Yeah.
So she has potential. It's one of those things where like she doesn't know her character yet. Like Cody went on the Indies because Cody didn't know who he was. Cardona kind of didn't know what he was. You know, he hadn't found like the thing that stuck with him. And I think Ash by Elegance or Ash might be able to find it in this. You know, pro wrestling is an art form. It's all, and character wise, it's all about experimentation. You may go through a lot of characters. Seth goes through a character every 2 years. You know,
It's true.
and eventually you find one that sticks. And hopefully, you know, during her run in TNA, she will find a character that sticks for her. But let's move along here to the other huge thing that happened in the States at the same time as TNA Hard to Kill. Jack Perry looking like Will Masterson, aka Hyde from that 70s show. Say what you want about him. I totally agree with you. Shows up at a New Japan Pro Wrestling Strong event in America and rips up his AEW contract. Okay, remember, the last time we saw Jack Perry, he was probably getting his ass beat by CM Punk at All In Wembley. We all know what happened there, and he hasn't really been seen since. He now shows up as a grizzly journeyman, kind of looks like, he looks rough. Okay, and it seems like, storyline-wise, as I completely believe this will work, and there's no way AEW fired him, because we would have known by now. I think storyline-wise, he is now going to do some New Japan stuff. I think from a PR perspective, great move as well. Get a little bit of heat off him. Say he has to prove himself. You're like, oh, he's not with AEW. He's with New Japan. It's their problem now. Although the problem is we already know you guys have a working relationship.
Exactly.
You know, that is an issue. Be it as it may, I'm interested to see what happens here. The AEW New Japan partnership was a lot better than the AEW and Impact partnership by leaps and bounds. So I don't know where they're gonna go with this. It's interesting to me as well. Now before I kick it to you, it's interesting to me as well, Nate, that this was allegedly one of your pillars of AEW. And now you're going to let your pillar go? And he's going to be in New Japan and not even, quote unquote, be affiliated with AEW? We're letting him, it's interesting. And my other thing is, if he is totally going to be New Japan in storyline and totally not with AEW, they've got to stick to that. He can't show up on Dynamite. He can't show up on Collision. No one watches Rampage. I'm sorry, no, people watch Rampage. He can't show up, he can't show up on Ring of Honor or anything like that. Make him run a New Japan schedule and stick to it. Do not let him be away for 6 months or something. Let him be away for a whole year until All In again at Wembley, and then have him come back or do something wild. But if we're gonna stick to this, like really, really stick with it and run it for a very long time. What are your thoughts on Hyde from that 70s show now going to Japan? What
a transition. I mean, we already know about the accusations, so we're just going to leave that there. But as far as Jack Perry and New Japan, this was an interesting move. And the fact that he calls himself Scapegoat from that armband that he had on there is a very interesting choice.
Mm-hmm.
You bring up some really good points. That's very hard for me to kind of, build off of that, because again, it's another situation where it's like, we see him here. What's he going to do? Honestly, I agree with a lot of what you said. Just keep him off of AEW. Honestly, I would bring him back for Forbidden Door and
Mm.
maybe like the first thing that he does is just knocks down a door because freaking just why not? Um, it's gonna be interesting to see what he does in New Japan. A lot of people are probably gonna say like, "Oh, he's a heel. He'll probably join Bullet Club." And I'm thinking, I don't see that. I
Bullet Club has
really,
enough problems.
yeah. They're almost getting into NWO 2000 levels of this is not good. But honestly, you could also have Jack Perry run his own faction. Let him have like call it Jungle Cruise, whatever the hell you want to call it. I don't know, but
I
yeah,
mean,
let him have fun over in Japan and.
he might get sued by Disney, but Jungle Cruise would be fantastic. No,
Well, maybe he could spell it differently. Maybe it's like a with Jungle Cruise, but the E's got a little asterisk or whatever the little things.
that'd be called like Crusade or something like that. I don't even know. I'm not a linguistics major. But good luck to Jack Perry wherever his AEW free life takes him, because AEW has a little bit of issues of her own, but no issues right now with Deonna Purrazzo, who made her shocking debut to AEW on Collision, I believe, if that is correct. She showed up. I believe she showed up. Oh no, she showed up not a. She showed up
She
a
showed up
couple weeks
on
ago on
She showed up
Dynamite.
on Dynamite, and then
Yeah,
she had her debut this past week, I believe.
which is very interesting timing because the organization she just left, TNA, had their show at the time. So I don't know how many people saw how she did, but Deonna Purrazzo, one of those people who was an NXT talent, got released by NXT and WWE, went on the run, went on an indie run, kind of refound herself, kind of found her character, um, and has kind of found her voice in the pro wrestling world. And good for her. Very, very good for her. The AEW Women's Division needs somebody like Deonna Purrazzo. Essentially, pretty much needs somebody that's not Britt Baker
Right.
to help move this women's division along in some way, shape, or form. I think AEW is probably the best spot for her right now. And I'm interested to see what she does with this run in essentially a bigger spotlight, because the AEW Women's Division needs as much help as possible. And having a former multi-time Knockouts champion is a big get for them.
Yes,
Very, very
definitely.
big get for them. But now, is she going to be able to do stuff with it? Is she going to get some freedom? Like, how much you're going to push her? Because right now, I'm pushing her to the moon. You gotta, like, you need to build another star, because your bigger star that you were supposed to get left for WWE in Jade Cargill. So I think there's a lot of responsibility on Deonna Purrazzo's shoulders, because if done correctly, she can do wonders for AEW and that women's division. What are your thoughts on? You're losing Deonna from TNA, but what are your thoughts on this, Nate?
So there was a glass ceiling that she could only hit in TNA, and she surpassed that. She really became somebody who just did everything that there was to do in TNA. So the only thing that she could do was get onto be on a bigger company, be on one
Was
that's
she
got a really
ever
strong.
the TNA World Champion?
No, no,
Okay,
she
so
was not.
she only got as high as knockouts.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, I think the only other person that I could see that could have been TNA champion that was female would be Jordan Grace right now, because the
Mm.
one who was the first TNA world champion is basically erased from history, and spot on. And you know what?
And
That
literally
was,
like wrestling in Mexico. Like, that's not even
yeah.
hyperbole. She's literally wrestling in Mexico.
And apparently she's divorced from Daga, poor guy.
She did. She did. That also happened as well.
But getting back on track here. Having Deonna Purrazzo on AEW is a big get. And I also know that she dealt with a little bit of, I wouldn't say backlash, but some fan lash, we'll call it, to
I like
where,
that. I like that. Fan lash.
well, it's stupid because there were people that were critiquing her on her body and how she was working. There were some people that were just really being very mean to her. And apparently this hit her really hard to the point where she had to, let it all out.
Mm-hmm.
And then as soon as she composed herself, she actually went on social media and she said, after crying about this. I found a way to finally just, rebuild myself and realize that, I am who I am. And that's the way it is. And I think she also did like a little shoot afterwards, to which I would love to have just gone onto social media and be like, you know what? I have never found Deonna Purrazzo, talentless. I've never felt her unattractive. She is a huge star ready to break out in AEW. And like you said, there was a big void that needed to be filled when Jade Cargill left. And Deonna Purrazzo, is she going to fill that void? Well, I mean, it's still early to really tell that. But she is one of those people, along with Athena, where if they were able to finally decide, hey, let's get the belt off of her in Ring of Honor, let's put her on on AEW television, hey, she could do wonders for that division as well. But for some reason, TK is not allowing that to happen. I don't know why. I mean, it's not the worst thing that he's done in the last week, but it's high up there at this point. Yeah, I do agree to the point where you said, push Dion to the moon. Just don't be quick about it. I know that the immediate thing is that it's somebody who's new, so let's just put him right in the title picture. No, let her build herself up, have a couple of pay-per-view matches, and then get to that point. And honestly, there still going to be some other stars that are going to be able to hang with Toni Storm before Deonna Purrazzo gets to her. Honestly, I feel like Deonna Purrazzo and Toni Storm, they will headline a show this year.
Mm-hmm.
I just don't think you need to do it right away. Give it time. Let Deonna tell a story and build up to that point where she can say, hey, I'm ready to face you and I'm ready to become the next AEW Women's World Champion.
I agree with that. And also, it's no coincidence that she debuts on AEW and people start attacking her online. It's no coincidence whatsoever, and that's shameful, and shouldn't happen to somebody who, for all intents and purposes, for what I've known, number one, has been through a lot, and number two is also still a sweetheart from everybody that's really met her and interacted with her, for the most part. I do agree if you build her up. I think the best spot for her right now, also to start to gain traction, is that it's gonna hurt some people's feelings, but take the TBS title.
Ooh, man, Ricky, you are opening a slow part of Pandora's box. Not the full port, but at the same time, I can see that. I can definitely see where you're coming from with that. Because
turn her heel. She's a great heel. Take it off of Julia. Do something with the TBS title.
Oh shit, that's right. For some reason, I thought it was Chris Statlander. Damn it!
Take it off Julia. And work with Julia Hart. I think that's a great way for her, because like the virtuoso character is a little bit more of a heel than as a face. Take it off Julia, and work from there. And I think that's perfect. Ideally, I'd do champion versus champion at one point, but that's for down the road if I'm the booker. But I'm not. But best of luck to Deonna Purrazzo, and what she does is, listen. We need great women's wrestling all around. Like and we're almost getting there. We're almost getting there. But excuse me, we have some bookers who have issues, like fighting with other talent on on social media. All right, let's break this down a little bit, folks, for everybody who hasn't been around in the last couple of weeks. The Rock showed up on one of the first Raws of the year in California. It was advertised that there was going to be a special person, and the first person that came out was Jinder Mahal, the special guest. And everybody was kind of upset when The Rock came out and pretty much ran down Jinder. That's what he was supposed to do. The next week, Jinder Mahal interrupted Seth Rollins and got himself a championship match for this past Monday night on Raw, which was a fine match, whatever. It did what it was supposed to do. He main evented Raw, by the way. So as soon as within less than 24 hours after the Seth and Jinder segment, which Jinder attacked Seth and got the championship match and all of that, Tony Khan In his infinite wisdom as the self-proclaimed new Vince McMahon and greatest booker of all time, as he said the day after Vince McMahon retired initially, um, pretty much said that did the funniest thing in wrestling is use stats to justify his talent over another talent. He went on to say in a public Twitter rant that Jinder hasn't won a wrestling match all since 2022 or whatever, or something like that, and he gets a title shot. And how is he a viable person for a shot? Whereas Hook is 28-1, and he's going to get a title shot, blah blah blah, because he deserves it. Jinder Mahal, in his infinite wisdom, retweeted him and said, "Who the fuck is Hook?"
I loved that.
And the internet world went ablaze. So this, for me, speaks to a giant problem that I have with Tony Khan, and I probably mentioned before, and I'll probably mention it until I'm blue in the face or until he stops doing this. You are the owner, CEO, general manager, head booker, all the silly titles you give yourself on all of your press releases. You're all of that for not only one wrestling company, but two, technically, since you bought ROH and you did crap with it. There is no reason for you to be commenting on another company. I get it's WWE. There's no reason for you to be commenting on another company or another company's talent. For any reason. You already have enough on your plate. And if you think you're the best booker ever and you're the new Vince McMahon never really publicly did this. Okay? Granted, Vince McMahon, I don't even think ran his own Twitter. But at some point, you don't mention the other talent. You don't mention the other company. Eric Bischoff did it, but Eric Bischoff had the balls to do it on TV. And that worked for a while until WWE stopped acknowledging it. But WWE lives rent-free in Tony Khan's head, to his detriment. Not only to his detriment, to his company's detriment, to his two companies' detriment. Tony Khan, at this point in time, will forever be a player two person in the world of pro wrestling at best. He hasn't grown up yet. He's still trying this kid in the sandbox and is getting butthurt over the littlest things and booking decisions of things that don't have to do with your company. It's annoying. It's annoying because AEW turned 5. I know I'm going on a rant here, but I don't care. AEW turned 5.
Go for it.
AEW turned 5 years old, and sometimes it feels like it's run by a 5-year-old in Tony Khan. Right. Especially I feel bad for a lot of people who had a lot of hope and may still have a lot of hope in AEW to see their hopes and dreams kind of dashed and diminished over and over and over again by a guy who can't seem to take his foot out of his mouth. It's like, for all the good that AEW does, and they do a lot of good, it gets overshadowed a lot by what their owner does publicly in public spaces that the IWC covers. On a positive note, Jinder Mahal main evented off of a Tony Khan rant, and that's actually great stuff. So
it is.
So, there's also that. So, it was bad for AEW and Tony Khan's a bad look, but great for WWE. Absolutely great. So you did something right, Tony. I guess it just so happened that it was not for your own company. So what are your thoughts on this? I'm done with my rant. I'm finished. But what are your thoughts on this, Nate, and the TK Jinder situation?
So I think that this is all secretly a work, and this is just a seed to plant the eventual matchup, which will be Jinder Mahal versus Tony Khan at the next Forbidden Door. I mean, I'm pretty sure people would love to see that matchup. I'd be one of them. I just see Tony Khan to try to do one punch, and then Jinder Mahal's like, really? One Colossus, boom, 1, 2, 3, match over.
I was going to go finger poke of doom.
No, no, Jinder would not go. Jinder after this past Monday, he would not stoop that low. He would get his lackeys to help him out, but no, he would not go down to finger protocol doom. Um, so top this off with the fact that this is the same guy who was so confident that his team was going to make the playoffs. He was already saying, "Hey, we got playoff tickets ready to go." And then when his team lost, they're like, "Oh, well, that didn't work out so well." So, yeah, just Tony Khan needs to lay off the crack, lay off whatever the hell he's on, and just stop shooting his mouth off because, like you said, it's not helping the company at all. You look at everything that he has done, and just because, yes, they're the competition. Yes, you want to showcase your guy's talent. You want to showcase your show. Doesn't mean you're trying that it's always going to work. Like you said, Eric Bischoff, he went on TV. He told the results just so that he can get people to fill in on his show. We don't have that option anymore. There's no way that you're
True.
going to be able to have somebody secretly sneak into a Monday Night Raw just to get the results and reveal them on Wednesday night. That doesn't even make sense. Wow, that's just really
Yeah,
stupid.
he would have to reveal SmackDown results, and even then, be too early because that can just change within 2 days.
Exactly. But I think this is one of the hard truths that I loved AEW for what it was. It was the alternative to where I could go and just enjoy wrestling.
Hmm.
But with this and everything that has happened in the last, even like in the last 2 years alone, I think, with everything that happened with Tony Khan, CM Punk, the Elite, it just sours it so much. And this is just another example of him literally not learning his lesson. You don't have to hinder the gender to get your point across. People are going to figure it out on their own that Jinder Mahal being WWE champion was not the best business decision.
Speak for
And him
yourself.
okay, I know why they did it, but that being said, um, it's just there were a lot of people that actually thought that Jinder was going to win, only to get it, only
Listen,
to lose,
he
only to
got
lose.
close.
He was close.
He got real close. Listen, that whole crowd was sold on it, and as was I. But that was just me being a troll and trolling Mark and wanting to see the world burn because I am an agent of chaos from time to time.
just like we wanted, some people just wanted to see Goldberg beat the Fiend just so they could see the whole world burn, and lo and behold, they did. This time around, the world was just like, you know what, we're a little cold for this. I don't think that we're going to warm up that fast, so let's just not mess with this right now.
Yeah, and one thing that we have learned from this is that Tony Khan has found out the hard way. He effed around and found out, but you do not hinder the gender because that gender train is iconic.
It is at this point.
It is
Do
very
not hinder
much so.
The Jindenberg.
Exactly. Don't hinder Virginenberg. Speaking of things that were a hindrance but not a hindrance, what you're seeing here below is the modified Raw set for this week. Triple H came out and said that there were a lot of modifications made due to the very, very cold weather around the entire United States that is going on. So they had to kind of modify the Raw set. It seems right now that this is a temporary set based on everything. If you actually look at this photo, if you're watching us on video, the roof is very, very low on this, and I think that's the reason for the temporariness of this Raw set. It's a very unique set. I didn't know how I felt about it. There are a couple of design things. I was like, I don't know, but it looks like the roof on this building is very small and they didn't have a lot of time to maneuver or move around, or also a possibility of like not getting their trucks in due to a snowstorm and ice storms going around the United States. But they came up with this modified version of the Raw stage. So my question for you there, Mr. Nate, what are your thoughts on this stage?
I mean, I guess
feel this. I get it. I kind of had that same feeling too.
You also have to remember that we just came off of a TNA show where they just started to bring back the tunnel entryway again.
Yeah.
So that was kind of one of those things where it's hard for me to say. I mean, it's like choosing between your kids at this point. Just which one do you prefer more? I think for temporary use, hey, they finally doing something different. So
Yeah.
I say let's see if it sticks around. Let's see if it works out. Um, I'm hoping that they do have a more solidified plan because
Yeah.
it's it's really rough to go through some of the shows and be like, well, which one are we seeing? Oh, okay, we're seeing Raw. It's like, okay, we're going to see a Raw show. Nope, it's SmackDown. It's like they're the same exact sets, and it's better to have something different with the sets than something that's completely the same. So I'm hoping that they wise up and be like, okay, let's do something different for Raw. Let's do something different for SmackDown. Let's give it an identity, like we did back in the day.
Yeah.
When you saw the Raw set, you knew you were in some for Raw. When you saw the SmackDown set, you were in for SmackDown.
The one thing that's missing is brand identity, and I think especially if both brands are going to be on different networks, which they are probably going to be, you need a little bit more brand identity, which I think is always a good thing. By the way, shout out to my friend Arrowstream who has joined us again. Check out his Twitch page. He does a lot of e-pro wrestling there, or not e-pro wrestling, but he is turning us into wrestling fans via his Twitch stream. Check that out.
Nice.
Yeah, no, he's a great guy. Met him at Comic-Con. Absolutely awesome person. Please check out all of his stuff on Twitch and YouTube as well. But moving on from that, the one thing that's constant about Raw and that should never change is the greatness that is R-Truth. Coming off one of the most epic video packages of all time, R-Truth has been hustling people in the parking lot. I don't know how he did that in the Winter Storm. Selling the Judgment Day merchandise.
The knockoff merchandise.
The knockoff merchandise and hustling people. Like, I think the sky is the limit for R-Truth, but where do you see this going? Like, when does this run stop? Because at some point, R-Truth is going to become a giant babyface when Priest kicks him out or something. Like, how does this end for R-Truth?
Honestly, your guess is as good as mine with this. Because well, here's the crazy thing: is that R-Truth actually did an interview where apparently this segment, the whole entire thing, was actually supposed to be done like sooner than what it was.
Oh,
but apparently, Damian Priest was the one that said, I think we have something here. Let's just continue on with this.
Nice.
Let's see where it goes." So major props to Damian Priest for giving R-Truth more screen time, because that's what we definitely need on our wrestling is more R-Truth.
You can never have enough R-Truth.
No, I agree. I want to say at least before WrestleMania, I think is where this will end, and maybe we'll get a blow-off match with R-Truth and Damian Priest on pay-per-view. I don't think it's happening at WrestleMania. I think, and that's the weird thing, is that what is going to happen at WrestleMania? Because it feels like there's two options they could go with this. They could either go one, Finn Balor and Priest versus DIY for the tag titles, or we could do Priest and Balor, which would also be completely fine. I'd be cool with that. So I don't see R-Truth and Damian Priest happening on a main stage like WrestleMania. I hate to say that it would probably happen it's not even Fastlane. I don't even know what's between.
Elimination Chamber.
Well, I mean, there's Elimination Chamber, but isn't there like usually another show?
They got rid of it.
Oh, sweet.
Yeah.
Okay, so it'll happen on a big episode of Monday Night Raw. Why not?
I got to go with Arrowstream here is in our comments. Thank you again, by the way. I think R-Truth messes up Priest's cash-in. Like at this point in time, Damian Priest is not going to cash in successfully, and I think the best thing to happen right now is for him to lose the cash-in, for him to lose to R-Truth instead of that way. I think they kick R-Truth out for real. He gets beat up. R-Truth returns, screws over Damian Priest because he thinks Damian Priest is his friend, and that's what happens. Yeah. So,
I'm just imagining him all being like, and I want all that money that I give you from my blood, honor, and sweat that I put into this.
Yeah, I can definitely see that. I can definitely see that happening. So much love to R-Truth, but let's move along, folks. With all these different faction stuff going on, SmackDown has really become the land of opportunity, in particular for pretty much any faction in WWE. But there is some cracks in the Damage Control faction right here, all five women. This might be the biggest all women's faction ever, which is a testament to WWE with that. Excuse me. Bailey had a match with Bianca, and no one helped Bailey out. They literally sat there on the sideline. So the story's there, the cracks there. When does Bailey get kicked out of Damage Control?
I think by Rumble time, which is very, very close. Because there are two strong possibilities when it comes to winners for the Rumble, and that being Becky Lynch and Bailey. In all honesty, if Bailey does win the Rumble, I feel like the SmackDown after, she's getting annihilated just to ensure that she does not challenge. Or they're going to try to sweet talk her and be like, you know, what you should do is you should challenge Rhea Ripley. And maybe there's a situation where Bailey pulls a Batista from 2005 where she just overhears a conversation where they're just like, we just want to get Bailey out of here. She's too much of a Karen at this point.
Yeah. We're getting a babyface Bailey back. That's what they're setting up.
It's definitely going to be a different babyface Bailey than what we're normally used to, but I am all for babyface Bailey. In all honesty, if she were to turn babyface, and maybe this, I'll just call it the Sky Triads. There we go, because I don't think it's going to be Damage Control for that much longer. Like they're just being down on somebody, and all you hear is ding dong, and Bailey's just on the screen. I'll be like, yes, okay, she's using her powers for good now. I love this.
Yeah, Bailey's going to need a hug soon. I think that's what's going to happen. I think Bailey's going to need a hug soon.
The day that happens, I will send her a tweet, be like, Bailey, sending you hugs. I can also fly to you.
I think Bailey's going to need a hug soon. That is what is going to happen with them. But moving on here, speaking of, again, big things that could happen, we finally had a face-off on Raw between Rhea Ripley and Becky the man Becky Lynch. I'm already sold on this happening by hook or by crook. Becky doesn't have to win the Rumble for this to happen. It can just happen for the sake of happening's sake. Because when Charlotte got knocked out, and she's done for the year for the most part, left a giant void, especially for Rhea, because it was set up for Rhea Charlotte 3. And it would have been beautiful. All because, Charlotte beat Rhea at the Pandemic Mania. Rhea beat Charlotte at WrestleMania Hollywood. Charlotte Rhea 3 at Mania would have been absolutely unbelievable and fantastic. But now that Charlotte's gone, Becky fits in perfectly. The alliteration is there. Mommy, man, mania. What else do you need?
You're right. There's nothing more you can say about that.
Mommy Man Mania is perfect.
So I'll say this. To your point, I do think that they could definitely circle back to Charlotte versus Rhea.
Sure.
Because honestly, both their matches, whether it was the pandemic era or whether it was with fans, they were both really good.
Excellent.
So
absolutely excellent.
I feel like if they were to like skip a year or 2 years like they did with the rematch, I would still pay good money to see Rhea versus Charlotte 3 at WrestleMania. I think that it's literally this generation's Rock and Austin at this point.
It's a new age Bailey and Sasha.
Oh yes.
That's pretty much what it is. But I mean, this sells itself. Rhea's at the top of her game, and Rhea needed a marquee match for Mania, and giving her Becky Lynch, who has pretty much done it all at this point. Perfect. This is a true test to see how big of a star Rhea is by going against one of the biggest female stars in the history of pro wrestling, modern or past. Mommy versus Man at Mania. I think this is a done. No matter what happens at Rumble, no matter what happens at Elimination Chamber, I think this is an absolute done deal. I'm gonna call this the first official Mania match. There's
Nope,
no
I
way.
agree.
There's no way they go against this. I not gonna. There's no way they go against this because I think it prints money at this point.
Right, exactly.
I really think it does. But we'll see. We'll see what happens. But back to SmackDown again.
Just
Listen,
this photo right here, I love it.
listen. It's clear Power Struggles is the name of this episode, and there's no greater power struggle right now between the Bloodline and Nick Aldis. Let me tell you, Nick Aldis might be my favorite general manager of all time. He plays the role so differently from everybody else. He doesn't take crap from anybody, including Roman Reigns, especially Roman Reigns, and especially Paul Heyman. He's kind of brought back the land of opportunity shtick. You know, you saw him talking with Carmelo Hayes. You see him giving people a lot of opportunities. Michin had a fantastic title match against EO. You see him giving a lot of factions titles and a lot of interesting signings. He's really made something out of this. And what's great about this is that he's so pleasantly creative, and it's good to see a GM that'll actually fight back. And it's very hard to see somebody fight back with the minds of Paul Heyman as well as Roman Reigns. I also found this interesting in terms of Nick Aldis. When you look at the career of Nick Aldis and Roman Reigns from an accolade perspective, Nick Aldis has had a longer reign than Roman as the champion.
Oh shit!
Nick Aldis held the prestigious title for a very long time, and it's longer than Roman's reign. He's been the face of the company before. Like, he's been the guy. So, like, that's why Nick Aldis doesn't give a damn about what Roman says, because he's been Roman, but you can argue he's been better. That's the crazy part about it. So, like, when is the Nick Aldis versus Bloodline thing going to come to a head? And also, for you, Nate, is Nick Aldis pro wrestling's best general manager?
Honestly, when I look at Nick Aldis, and I've seen the stuff that he's done so far, it is absolutely amazing.
Yeah.
You bringing him in was a gamble in and of itself, because there's some people that are like, well, who is this guy? And then you have people that are like NWA fans to be like, hey, that's Nick Aldis. Why is he doing a suit job? Shouldn't he be wrestling?
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things that they probably soon remembered was that, oh yeah, no, he can talk. He's really good at this. And like you said, he's one of those guys who does not really give a damn what these guys are saying. Roman Reigns coming up being like, I want this done that way. And Nick's just like, no, I'm not going to let you take over the show that I'm in charge of running. You may be the champion, but I'm still running this show. You're not, and neither is your little lackey Paul Heyman. So that moment when he said to, when he said to Paul Heyman, hey, you go over and tell your boy Roman, congratulations, he's battling all three of these guys in a fatal four-way. It was just one of those things where it's like, oh my God, this is a great moment. This is a great GM moment here, because he literally is just like, oh, you want to ruin my matchup? Well, just realize that there are consequences for that. Oh yeah, you're going to fight all three of these guys since you don't want to fight one of them. You could have just left well enough alone, but nope, here are your consequences. Like you said.
A GM with balls.
Which we haven't had that in a long ass time.
Not a long time at all.
I mean, Eric Bischoff is definitely one of those guys that I would say, he could be a sniveling deal. But when he threw his balls down, it was like thunder. He knew when to throw down and be like, no, I'm not putting up with this shit. I mean, you could also say that his deal with John Cena a bit underwhelming.
Yes.
But at the same time, I still enjoyed as much of it as possible, because he literally was like, I'm going to do everything in my power to ensure that John Cena is not WWE champion anymore. He threw everything from Chris Jericho to Kurt Angle to multiple matches. He even put him in a triple threat submission match. And what ended up happening was that he did finally get the last laugh because it was the Money in the Bank contract that finally did the deed to Cena. So it was one of those things where it's like, damn. So eventually he did find a way to end that run. I mean, it was a little late because he was fired at that point, but still the last lingering effect of it.
Yeah,
but yeah, Nick Aldis is amazing.
Yeah, I implore anybody to listen to the Nick Aldis After the Bell. He was on After the Bell with Corey Graves' podcast, and he talks about getting signed by WWE. And essentially, what he said was that this is the opportunity that WWE gave him, and he's going to do the best with it. He has a fantastic story about how he got into the business, and he is doing the best with it right now. He is a force. He's without a set design, he has made SmackDown really unique, absolutely, really, really unique, and it's awesome to see him get treated in such a way. Hopefully he gets in the ring, but at this point, you don't need him at the moment. But I am excited for my contract signing this upcoming week on SmackDown with all four of them and Nick Aldis in the ring. So this should be very, very interesting. Also, Nick Aldis giving opportunities, and probably the final opportunity for Cross and Scarlett, and now with Paul Ellering and the Authors of Pain. They are now called the Final Testament. That is their official name. I like the look of them. I think the name is pretty good. Mm-hmm. Like I said, either Cross makes this work or he's probably gone from the company, in my opinion. But what are your thoughts on this faction name, the Final Testament?
I mean, we had the Authors of Pain, so it only made sense that they would pick something that was very Doomsday-like. I was figuring,
why don't you just call them Doomsday? You know, actually, I think about it. It's like you have Judgment Day and Doomsday. That's kind of a clash.
It is kind of a clash, but when I think of like Doomsday, all I'm thinking about is the what was that WCW faction?
Not Demolition Man. That's WWE.
It was the one that Hogan was fighting. It was like the Dungeon of Doom or something like that. Dungeon of Doom. It's one of those things where it's like Doomsday.
Were you thinking of a Yeti?
You know what? One of them probably did play the Yeti.
It was wasn't it Nash?
I don't know, but
no, Nash was a wizard or something. I don't know. It was a weird time in WCW.
Yes, it was
a weird time in WCW.
But yeah, it's just one of those things where it was like, Doomsday would be kind of seems like cool on paper, but I think in practice it probably would not have worked. I think Final Testament is a good starting name. If they change it to something else, hopefully it's not something worse. But I'm for it. I'm kind of interested in seeing how this all goes down. And like you said, if this may be Karrion Kross's last attempt at actually doing something in WWE before they're like, yeah, we are carrying dead weight here. We may need to cut ties.
It's possible. Listen, they're setting him up for success. He's got fantastic video packages. He has Paul Ellering, tag team managing specialist, and just manager galore. Anyway, and he has offers of pains. He has people who can do his dirty work for him, who are bigger than him, and Karrion Kross is already a massive man.
Right.
One of the most unique factions in WWE currently at the moment. Another faction that apparently has a name as well. I cannot confirm this, or I may have to watch SmackDown again. Bobby and the Street Profits, who were attacked by the Final Testament was attacked by the Final Testament last week. And they are calling themselves I believe their name is called the Pride.
Pride.
Yes. And I mean, we had Hurt Business right there. Smoke Business, as Fred's like to try to get that name over. It's so generic, and I don't know how I feel about this.
It was kind of like when Santana and Ortiz were in AEW, and they were started out as the
Pride and Powerful. Yeah,
it's kind of one of those things where it's like, you know what? It's a name for right now, but we're not going to let that be the name for the entirety of the deal.
I sure as hell hope not.
Yeah, I am not a fan of the Pride. It's like, what is he, like a lion? Is this his pride or something like that?
Yeah, it just seems very. It just seems lackadaisical.
Like Lion Lashley. Oh no.
Yeah,
I'm
no.
a horrible person.
You are. I don't know. Like I feel like there are much better names out there than the Pride.
Yeah.
But hopefully they do something with it. Like I said, hopefully they do something with it. And the one hint he said is that Bobby wants to go up against Roman, which is something when the draft occurred was something that could be a potential of a match. And we still haven't seen that match, and I hope we do very, very soon. But who knows? Who knows what'll happen? Moving on. Again, more factions on SmackDown specifically. Listen, Land of Opportunity, he's given a lot of these people different ways to express themselves. And that's all on Nick Aldis, obviously, in storyline perspective. But Santos has pretty much formed another version of Legato. Because the LWO is still a thing. Santos got his original music back, his Legato music back. But now he has Humberto Carrillo and Angel Garza by his side. And listen, both of these guys, uber talented for a very long time and never got a chance or a gimmick for them to really get over. They became like kissing people, and they were kissing people in the crowd, but I think they're better off as bad guys.
Yeah. I'll be right back, Ricky. I got to do something quick.
That's perfectly fine. I can go rant for this. So let's move on with this. I enjoy this. I enjoy the fact that we're giving Angel Garza and Humberto Carrillo really something to work with and be kind of heels. They're kind of stuck in like these Latin lover gimmicks. And to be completely honest, were kind of creepy. For all intents and purposes, like just hitting on people for a while, especially Angel Garza. But this shows that it's almost like they're trying to protect Santos in some way, shape, or form, because I do believe Santos will be a big star, but I don't think they're ready for him just yet. And if you look at the SmackDown roster in particular, SmackDown's kind of bloated, so he's gotta kind of hover around for a little bit, maybe in the mid card scene when that kind of opens up with everything. But I like this position for Santos. He's kind of got the Legato swag back with everything going on. So I'm happy with this, and I think Humberto and Angel will be good lackeys for him as he starts to build towards probably a future mid-card title at this current moment. But welcome back, Nate. What are your thoughts on this?
I think that this was something that was, I don't know if I would say inevitable, but I think it's one of those things that made sense, that Santos had somebody that was going to be his wingman, really. And since it couldn't be, the LWO, because LWO is still doing pretty good with merch sales,
Yeah, they are.
It only made sense to bring up two other people. And like you said, having those two, having Garza and Carrillo involved in that, just gives them something to do, because let's face it, those guys, they were in limbo for so long that it's finally good to see them finally doing something great. And we have to remember, guys, that Angel Garza, he just oozes just this charismatic deal.
He does have a lot of machismo, as they would say.
And Carrillo is legitimately, he's good in the ring. I mean, you have to remember, he did fight Sheamus for the U.S. title like multiple times. So he can go. And honestly, there's going to be some star-breaking performances out here. I mean, you have to remember that factions are made to elevate everybody.
Yeah.
So even though Santos may be the main deal, you never know. Carrillo could be the breakout star of that faction, or it could be Garza, for all we know.
Yeah, they actually don't have a name yet. I think they should be named Legato, but we'll see what happens. Well, they don't. We'll definitely see what happens with them. And probably the most exciting thing to happen on SmackDown this past week, it is very possible that the unfortunate name of Butch is going to be no more in just a couple of weeks. You didn't see this, did you, Nate?
I think I've heard of this.
Okay, so I'll explain to you what happened. So SmackDown in particular, more so than Raw, has been doing a really, really good job of doing video packages for a lot of their talent and stuff. Tyler Bate recently named full-time to SmackDown. Awesome
I
for
didn't hear
him.
that.
Long time coming. He partnered with Butch last week in a tag team match. So they did a video segment with them at like literally some sort of coffee shop. And Tyler Bate being happy go lucky, like, oh, we're back, we're on the same brand now. We can really show the world what British strong style is all about. I know you've been going through some rough times with everything going on with the Brawling Brutes, which is pretty much no more. Rich
Yeah.
Holland is back in NXT. Sheamus hasn't returned from injury. Butch is kind of left on his own. And so Tyler Bate keeps egging Butch. He was like, just like, remember when we first started, you had made a name for yourself, with the way that you worked and stuff like that. He pretty much is like, what was that name? And it zooms in on Butch's face and then the screen goes black. So it is very possible that Bruiserweight Pete Dunne is going to return to WWE and make his debut on the main roster. I am over the moon for this. I understood that is his real name, and I understand that sometimes your real name is not going to be able to be used on WWE for a lot of legal purposes and contractual purposes at the time. However, if this is true, thank goodness they found a workaround for this and for him, because I feel like he's going to be so much happier. Like the face you're looking at right now, that's a Bruiserweight face. That is a Bruiserweight face. I am so excited for him, and if that is the case, he needs to get his entrance music back as well. It's not determined what his name is yet. They're slow burning this, rightfully so, to get us all excited and talking about it on podcasts like we currently are. But if it is true, I'm very happy for Pete Dunne. Nate, I know you've been following him for a while, probably just like we all have, especially when he broke up on the scene in NXT and NXT UK, and that legendary takeover Chicago match with Tyler Bate.
Oh no, that was the one I missed. I
Yeah,
didn't get a chance to see that one.
but what are your thoughts on the potential return of the Bruiserweight Pete Dunne?
Take my money. Bring back fucking Pete Dunne. I am totally for that. If you have to change his name a little bit, get it. But just Butch needs to go. It's just not working.
Yeah.
Why they thought that just the simple name Butch was going to be the next Cesaro, the next Rock, the next whatever, is beyond me, because there was no way you're going to be taken seriously as a champion, much less a world champion, if your name was Butch.
Yeah.
And this dude literally killed it on the scenes as Pete Dunne. He literally was just doing an amazing job just creating, establishing a name, establishing his wrestling style. If I remember correctly, he also had a great matchup with Gunta, aka Walter, at the TakeOver New York show. If I remember correctly,
that was when Walter destroyed his streak, and that's when he won the UK title.
Yeah, that was still a really good matchup. I loved that one and loved the main event. But getting back on topic, yeah, no, I'm all for the Bruiserweight making a comeback. And even if we just get that name of Bruiserweight brought in, I feel like that's going to help him out quite a bit.
Yeah, let's knock it. He had a shit name, but he ended up making something of it with the help of the Brawling Brutes. As Butch, like, we all kind of accepted it for a while, but that was also because he didn't let it take away from who he was as a performer.
That's true.
And I think that's a testament to him, because sometimes you get chicken shit and you got to make chicken shallot out of it. And that's what he did for a very, very long time. They had some memorable matches. They had the extreme bar fight at Extreme Rules in Philly. The same night Bray Wyatt returned. That was a crazy match. Like, they did a lot of good work with the Brawling Brutes, and I'm happy that, they're splitting up and we're kind of potentially getting rewarded with the return of Pete Dunne. So I'm looking forward to that official announcement. But officially announces that we have a brand new, very smiley with brand new teeth. It looks like great veneers there, Obafemi. In Obafemi, the NXT North American champion, he cashed in his breaking out tournament win real quickly, by the way. And won the North American title. Dragon Lee kind of wants back. But I put this in here because I see Obafemi. I watch him wrestle. This is a scary man. This is a scary, scary man. He's a former SEC football player. He's big as a house, by the way. Like he threw Dragon Lee like across the ring with ease when he beat him. I wasn't able to really focus, as we think we were doing game night. I wasn't able to really focus on how he was in the promo. I'll have to watch it on YouTube or what have you. But if he's any bit of a talker, he doesn't even need to be a bit of a talker. He's got the size. He passes the airport test. He has the look. He's got a Brock Lesnar-like potential to him from what I've seen thus far. He is a monster. Okay. Absolute monster. He's like, he oozes, I'm a future champion on the main roster. Like, he's got that much with him. We'll see how long he can carry, but I feel very, very good about Obafemi's future from what I've seen so far. What are your thoughts on Mr. Femi?
I think honestly, for a guy who just started making a splash,
He's been signed for I think a year and a half.
Hey, he's finally getting into the mainstream now, so he's finally getting a chance to make a name.
Yeah,
and that breakout tournament was exactly what he needed to really showcase his talent. And now the fact that he immediately decided, you know what, I got this opportunity. I'm not going to squander it. I'm just going to use it right away. And like I said, we got a new North American champion. Dragon Lee can now go to the main roster and hopefully be utilized very well. And Obafemi is just going to...
They've been going back and forth with Dragon Lee.
And Obafemi, he's just going to take the North American title and literally bring it to another great level. I mean, you mentioned him being one of these big brick house kind of guys who literally could just throw little people around. I can't think of a North American champ that we've had that was like that other than maybe Bronson Reed, who probably did that. But other than him...
Not like that. I understand the Bronson comparison, but not like that.
Right.
Yeah.
No, I think the sky's the limit with him. And if you've ever given him praise that he's almost got that Brock-like deal, I think he's got a really good future ahead of him.
I do. Like I see him and I'm like, this guy's a monster. Like, this guy's going to be pushed to the moon. According to Fretz, it was a good promo. He's got cockiness and confidence of what you need in a heel. But what you need in anything when you're performing in wrestling. So if he has that persona about him already, it's probably only going to get better. There's a reason he's on TV. There's a reason they gave him a title. Because once you get a title, you got to be able to speak in some way, shape, or form. Even if you have a manager. But the fact that he was able to do it on his own shows they got some sort of confidence in him. And I can see that they can do a lot with him for a very, very long time. So I'm very interested to see where this goes with Obafemi and NXT as a whole, especially since in October of next year, NXT's going to cable TV.
That's true.
CW, maybe battling with NWA. Who knows? Who knows? But they're going to be, NXT is going to be seen on more households than ever before. For free, by the way, right. On cable TV. And so I can see him easily being the face of this new era of NXT. Especially to get a lot of tracks and they maybe start going on tour. He could definitely be that guy. He could definitely be that guy. But ladies and gentlemen, that is it for Kings of the Rings podcast this week. Oh yes, I totally forgot. Special announcement. So next week is the week of the Rumble. obviously. And usually what we do at Kings of the Rings podcast is we do what is known as our Rumble of Royalty shows. It's one of our bigger shows of the year where we talk about and break down stat for stat, line for line, the Royal Rumble, our predictions, as we go into the road for WrestleMania. Now, as you guys know, for the last couple of months, we've had a lot of scheduling conflicts between myself, Kayfabe, and Willie T, my two other co-hosts that helped us to get to this nomination for Best Wrestling Podcast by the Sports Podcast Awards. By the way, don't forget to vote. However, I felt very, very big about this, and I felt it was very, very important that one of our marquee shows of the year has to have all three core members of Kings of the Rings podcast on it. So that's why I'm officially announcing today, and we're going to promote it all throughout the week. Tuesday night, 8 p.m., a special edition of Kings of the Rings podcast live featuring myself, Willie T, and Kayfabe. Rumble of Royalties, Tuesday live show. We are going to talk all about the Royal Rumble with all of the hosts from Kings of the Rings podcast, as it should be for one of our marquee shows. So Willie T, Kayfabe, myself, we're all going to come back Tuesday night live here on Twitter, Twitch, and YouTube for KOTR and Wrestle Addict Radio. So please mark it in your calendars. We're going to promote it out. We're going to blast it out. That is what's going to happen. And we're gonna have a whole lot of fun on that show. Special edition Tuesday night, maybe a preview of things to come. I don't know yet. We will see. There's a lot still to be determined in the world of television contracts. But with that being said, that does conclude the show. Once again, I want to thank Wrestle Addict Radio brethren of the Brace for Impact podcast, Nate the effing Great, for joining us, joining me on the show this week as another special guest host. Nate, would you like to plug anything?
I would like to plug something. So earlier this week, I got the chance to review Hard to Kill. So if you want to go through the full details of how I felt about the show itself, definitely check that out on our feed, as well as other episodes I've done in the past, ladies and gentlemen. Also check me out on Instagram as well as on the Twitter, that being at RealFNGame. One of the things I definitely wanted to do is do a shout out to a couple friends of mine, Josh and Zach, who have their own podcast. And Zach was actually a part of our Discord deal, so definitely check them out. Pro Wrestling Off Topic. It's really entertaining listening to those guys just chat and rave about a lot of things. And Zach will definitely embellish about how much of a TNA fan he is, even though he has stated that the only reason why he shit on it for so long was because there were some things that sucked him. He said that the only reason why we shit on it was because WWE was doing so bad. It's like, you know what? Yeah, because somehow TNA was able to create more memorable stuff than WWE did in those times. So to be fair, I am looking forward to seeing and hearing from the original trio from the Kings of the Rings back in action again next week. Willie T, the one and only Queen Bee, Kay Murphy, and the man known as King Rickie Rose.
You've been holding on for that one for a while.
I have.
You really, really have. At some point, I'm going to get that into some sort of real soundbite and just be totally obnoxious with it. But that may be for no time. Also, last but not least, certainly check me out this Friday as well on the WrestleMania podcast, part of Wrestle Life Radio, as we review Royal Rumble 2000. Yes, that Royal Rumble emanating from the Garden. So that is going to be a fun time. I've been making my rounds, guest spotting a lot in the past couple of weeks. I'm very happy to do that to represent Wrestle Addict Radio as well as Kings of the Rings podcast in this new year. And hopefully I'll get more opportunities to do so. So it's awesome stuff. So with that being said, let's get the fuck out of here. Ladies and gentlemen, you have been listening to Kings of the Rings podcast, episode number 365, Power Struggles, featuring Nate, the effing great, from the Brace for Impact podcast. Be sure to please go check out all of his stuff on Wrestle Addict Radio. I have been your host, King Rickie Rose. You can find me at Ambassador Biggs across all social media outlets. That's not even hyperbole anymore. I'm actually really back there. BIGZ, Ambassador Biggs. Find Kings of the Rings podcast at KOTR_podcast. Like, share, subscribe, leave us 5-star reviews. Buy some of our fantastic merch. I'm actually wearing a special edition Pride shirt from KOTR at the moment. And most importantly, right now, please submit your vote for us for Best Wrestling Podcast for the Sports Podcast Awards. The link to that voting is the first link in the description below, and the links to everything else, our merchandise, all of our socials are also in the description below. If you're listening to us, make sure you're listening to us on Wrestle Addict Radio, the cure for the common wrestling podcast network, because we are a network of shows. Follow Wrestle Addict Radio socials at addict_wrestle on Twitter, and Wrestle Addict Radio, all one word, everywhere else. Ladies and gentlemen, when we come back next week, special edition, Tuesday night, Rumble of Royalties, all things Royal Rumble. We're going to start to lay out the floor plan for the road to WrestleMania in Philadelphia. Everybody's back. I'm going to be there. Willie T is going to be there. Kayfabe is going to be there. It's going to be a blast, live, Twitter, Twitch, YouTube, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time with all of the Kings. So until next week, next Tuesday, folks, goodbye. Good night. We'll see you soon. Fuck you, Slack. Yeah. See you next week, folks. Fucking Slack. Anywho, let's get out of here. All right. And thank you guys for sticking with us, as now you're at the post show.
Hey.
Yes, welcome to our Tip of the Crown post show for those of you guys who are new here. As you're seeing in the middle, you're seeing all of our favorite tweets and memes from the world of pro wrestling in the last couple of weeks. We are literally going to shoot the shit. Yes, we are still going. We do post shows here, Big Tet. You will not see the post show or the pre-show on the actual edit of this episode when it releases tomorrow at around 1-ish or so. But you will... So this is on the live streams where you're going to see us in the post show, where we get the BS, answer any questions that you may have for us in regards to anything that you can think of, and we'll do this for probably another 20 minutes until about 10 p.m. Eastern time, and then I gotta go and start editing all of this shit in audio and video form. So I will definitely be up for it. But do follow our socials, give us a vote, buy some of our merch. I think I should start doing some new merch for you guys. I know I'm working on some stuff for you, Nate, as well, but I have to really start working on merch and revamping some merch for my own personal podcast stuff as well. With my new slogan and stuff all over the socials. Yeah, so yeah, thank you guys for joining. Big Ted, I know this is your first time here, and I'm glad that you stayed the whole time. So what did you think of our show? I'm always looking for feedback, always looking for ways to improve and all of that. So I'm very curious as to what you thought of being on the show for the first time. And also, while he's answering that, Nate, your Pretzels needs a logo. You also need a pretzel for real. But yeah.
You know what's really funny was that when I was doing a delivery to one of the businesses, we were just talking about how some signatures I get are usually like hearts and smiley faces and kitty cats and stuff like that. And one of the ladies, she said, well, mine was supposed to have like a heart at the end. But it just looks like a pretzel. I'm like, well, aren't pretzels just kind of like little hearts?
Kind of.
And then I had the line that actually broke her, where I just said, so it's the salty kind of love, you know?
That's a good one. That's the way to think in your head. Yeah, you are very welcome here. We pride ourselves in being a very welcoming community here at Wrestle Addict Radio and Kings of the Rings podcast. So please, if you do want to continue to feel welcome, please first and foremost join our Discord. Big Hirsch is in the building. Hirsch, man, yeah, Big Hirsch. So join our Discord. We talk a lot of stuff. We're probably gonna do game night. We may or may not be streaming the Royal Rumble, but don't tell anybody, like WWE. As well in our Discord, but you have to be a Discord member to do that as well. But Big Hirsch is here finally. There's a Discord link, by the way, Big Tet, in the description below. So Big Hirsch is a guy I met a couple years ago at WrestleMania in Dallas. One of the most outstanding people I've ever met in a wrestling event. Also, funny story, Big Hirsch, the biggest Nia Jax fan I have ever seen. He will leave his girl for Nia Jax, and that is not hyperbole. But what I really need to know, Big Hirsch, I've solidified my trip to Philly. You better be in Philly. I saw you in New York. Not that I saw you, but I saw those pictures. You're at MSG for that house show. Okay, I saw the photos. I saw the evidence. So you know how to get there. Okay, if you can make it to New York, you can make it to Philly. So you better be in Philly because we're gonna go crazy. So I really hope you're there at Philadelphia. You are not gonna be that as a shame, Hirsch. That is an absolute shame.
All that hype just to be like, damn.
Listen, I will always hype up Big Hirsch. You went to New York. Okay, I saw you at the house show. Don't give me that BS. I met you in Dallas. I met you in Dallas. Don't give me that BS. But if you can't make it, I understand you can't make it, but it is what it is. But check out Big Hirsch's stuff too. He puts on a fantastic podcast as well. I'm sorry, I know you're not sorry. I know you're not sorry, but this is a shame. This is a shame, Hirsch. I thought we could meet in the middle, but I guess we cannot. Philly is for zombies. Philly is for cheesesteaks. Is what it is. Aerostream. I personally am not going to be at the Rumble. My friends at Bot Spots and Chair Shots are going to be at the Rumble. Tampa's kind of a weird thing for me because I'll tell you the story. And I did have a question for you, Nate, but I'll just so if everybody remembers, Tampa was supposed to have the Mania at the Rumble.
Yeah, I think.
I mean, Tampa was supposed to have the Mania during the pandemic, not at the Rumble, because that made no fucking sense whatsoever.
I think I got what you were saying, but yeah.
Yeah, Tampa was supposed to have the Mania for COVID that year in 2020, and prior to that, in the fall, ironically enough, I was in Philly for a wedding. In booking the hotel, long story short, I was able to finagle my way into getting like one of those things like pretty much an most expenses paid trip to like this timeshare that was owned by the Hilton down in Orlando. And I had this massive plan to go to good, welcome Ted. We'll greet you later once I'm editing and stuff. But thank you for joining our Discord, Big Ted. So I had this plan for Mania week that year. I was going to go down to Orlando because this is when Galaxy's Edge had just opened up in Disney. Okay. So I was going to get like a lightsaber. I was going to go take pretty much some personal time in Orlando by myself, and I was going to, go to Disney, go to Galaxy's Edge, get my lightsaber. I was finally able to get a spot because that's when it was hard to find like a lightsaber creation spot because it had just opened up. And then, like, after several days, I was going to take a drive to Tampa because I've done the drive before from Orlando to Tampa. It's about an hour. Pick up my friend from the airport who was going to join me for Mania, and then we were going to do Mania weekend and all of that stuff. We were probably going to go to like a pool party sponsored by Hulk Hogan because we were ridiculous at the time. We had plans of like meeting Mike Tyson and all of that stuff. I might be consolidating War and KOTR Discords, by the way. But we shall see. And then the pandemic hit. Like, this was literally all. We had the place to stay. We had the rental car. We had everything. And then the pandemic hit. And so I was never able to return to Tampa. Listen, it was a different time. Don't give me that look, Hirsch. It was a different time. But I was never able to do it. But I did get all that money back. Hey. Was a shame. So I've always wanted to do Tampa. We even got the combo package. We were going to do WrestleMania, NXT TakeOver, SmackDown, Raw after Mania and everything, and none of that came to fruition. I never got my goddamn lightsaber. By the way, to this day, I still need that damn lightsaber. It is the most important thing because you know what? My lightsaber was going to be purple because I'm for the culture, and everybody knows that. Or at least they know it now. Purple is the only lightsaber that someone of my melanin content can get at the moment. But Nate, your friend on... thank you, Big Ted, for joining both. Like I said, that might be consolidated into one for whatever. Oh, you're going to the Rumble Arrow stream. That's awesome. All right. Besides myself, Has anybody been to a Royal Rumble in here? Nate, you've never been to one, correct?
That is correct.
Yeah, okay. So I was fortunate enough, again, this is another Philly story. I was fortunate enough to go to the 2018 Rumble in Philadelphia, which also was the home of the first ever Women's Royal Rumble. Okay.
Oh, that's right.
At that Rumble, I officially met, because the first time I met him, he was blacked out. I officially met some guy named Rant with Ant, or Ant DeStefano. I also met NYC Demon Diva, Issa, the Demon Diva, who's pretty much blown up since then. You know,
No kidding.
that was actually the beginnings of Wrestle Addict Radio. We met Dave at the time, Dave, Will, met Ant, met Issa, all of them. Mance was there, I believe, as well. That was the, Ant of the Stephanos Disney. You can stop promoting him. He's good at it by himself.
That's true.
Yeah. Yes.
Be sure to send him a message. Be like, get Rickie your lightsaber.
Seriously. I would pay him to get me a goddamn lightsaber. It better be purple too. So that's when we met, and that's kind of when Wrestle Addict Radio came to be, because then by April of that year, April of 2018, we had Rant with That, Antisocial Kim at the time, and Mance at the time on a live stream show from New Orleans. And then that's when the seeds of coming into the Rant with That network came to be, and Wrestle Addict Radio. So Philly holds a good place in my heart. But someone asked the question, is going to the Rumble worth it? Absolutely. I have been to all Big Four pay-per-views, and I've been to a Money in the Bank. The only thing more exciting than a Royal Rumble is WrestleMania in and of itself. Okay, the Royal Rumble is so much fun. The surprises, I mean, it was special for me, obviously, because we saw the Women's Rumble and everything that happened there. The surprises, you don't know who's coming next, the pops, the people coming back out of nowhere. Like, one of the biggest pops of that night was the Hurricane showing up. I remember that being the greatest thing ever, was the Hurricane showing up. Obviously, all the women that came back. One of the bigger pops, Vicky Guerrero, showing up and saying, "Excuse me," the whole time.
That's right.
I will tell you, of all the women's Rumbles, there's only been about 6 of them at this point. The first one is still the best one. Like, for me. One, because I was there, but also, like, it's such a very, and you've been to WrestleMania, Nate. Royal Rumble is such a very WrestleMania-like atmosphere. Everybody's there to have a good time. Everybody's excited to be at the Rumble because it's one of those moments in time in pro wrestling that you actually don't know what's going to happen. It might be the most pure of what ifs in pay-per-views next to Money in the Bank in the entire calendar of pro wrestling. There is so much unpredictability that you're kind of on the edge of your seat most of the night. And that's what I love about the Rumble. It really brings that excitement about everything.
It was really crazy because a year later was when I got the chance to meet up with you guys at WrestleMania 35.
That is correct.
That was a crazy weekend. Getting the chance to go to WrestleCon, Rant Gala. That's an experience in and of itself. Holy shit! Because we were at that spot that was like one side was New Jersey and the other side was New York, right?
Yeah, we were in Weehawken, and we were across the river from New York.
Yeah, so just that beautiful sight there was just phenomenal. Mm-hmm. I think if I had, and I'm not trying to make him sound like a downer for something like this, but it is one of the things that I feel like it was the only regret I had about the experience was that I went to take over New York and WrestleMania with Willie T, but he was so burnt out at both shows when I saw him. So he was just like, literally, we were just done watching Gargano win the title from Adam Cole, and I did a video, and literally he just said, "I'm fucking tired." That was to say. And then after Mania, we got drenched because it was not even like 10 minutes.
As soon as they counted the 1, 2, 3, that rain started going down, and 35 was not a crap show. You take that back, Big Hirsch.
It was.
You will not sully Kofi Mania like that. You will not sully Kofi Mania.
The only reason why it was kind of rough was because of the people that got blinded during the AJ Styles and Randy Orton matchup.
One snafu, but they fixed mid-match.
Still, though.
Fortunately for me, I had good seats and didn't have to get blinded by anything.
That's true. But yeah,
So,
I took a full week off of that, and I am so glad that I did.
WrestleMania is a
because
full week experience.
It really is.
It really, really is. But next to WrestleMania, it is the Rumble. I've been dying to find a Rumble to go back to because it's always, for me, always a very, very fun time to do things with. But Nate, you mentioned one of the guys on our when we were watching Hard to Kill has his own show. Was that Beer Dad?
Yeah, that was Zach.
Yeah, Beer Dad. He's good. He said he has his own podcast.
Maybe he has another podcast that he does.
But you said you said off topic wrestling or whatever.
Pro Wrestling Off Topic. Yeah,
Pro
I can
Wrestling.
I can definitely send you guys like a best.
Yeah, I
message
have
to
some
them.
ideas. 'Cause he's a multi-person podcast.
Basically, yeah.
Okay. I just my gears are spinning right now.
Right.
My gears are spinning, but also I liked the way that he saw wrestling. I liked I liked my conversation with him during Hard to Kill.
Trust me, I think 80% of that whole entire Discord was you guys talking about wrestling, and I thought that was really awesome.
Yeah, no, I like my interaction with him. So if there's a way we can continue to cultivate those interactions for maybe something down the road in the future, I'd definitely like to do that. But I want to listen to his show first and see. Like I said, my gears are spinning today. Apparently, I guess I'm on a creative high at the moment.
Yes, you are.
Listen, sometimes I get these spurts. Not like I'm bipolar. I just get these spurts. I must be on a good day. We just say I'd host you up there, but next, Fred, you're getting a big five. You're getting Money in the Bank, and you're not even gonna go to it.
That's fair.
I would also say go to Money in the Bank. Money in the Bank is also a very fun time for the most part, but not as big as the Rumble or Mania.
I had the unfortunate bad experience out of Money in the Bank because the one that we had in Chicago was that was the one where Bliss and Strowman won the briefcases.
Bliss cashed in immediately after.
Yeah, but that was also the it was. Yeah, I remember that so vividly now. That was also the event where James Ellsworth made his return, and I almost walked out of the building.
Wait, was that the one when he helped Mello in?
No. That was the one where he was wearing the Oscar coat and mask and did the whole did the winking thing.
Yeah, I remember that one. Yeah, that was weird.
It was one of those moments where my friend Rob Fury, he actually had to calm me down and be like, "It's fine. It's just one thing. It's just one shitty thing." And I think the next match was Roman versus Jinder. I'm like, "Fuck."
Oh yeah, no,
I'm not hindering both of those guys, but they were just not right for each other at that time.
No, I get it. Listen, Dave used to get mad so much, especially at the Jinder run. He was so mad. He was so mad. I did take some pride in kind of pushing his buttons about Jinder. That's probably why I'm such a big Jinder fan, because it made Dave so mad at the time.
At least neither one of us has experienced the horror that was a Punjabi prison match live and in person.
I watched that with Will.
Wait, which one? Because there's been 3.
The Randy and Jinder one.
Oh boy.
I remember because Will and I watched it at his place at the time, and that's when the Great Khali randomly came back.
Yeah.
I remember me and him just started bursting out laughing. I was like, "This is absolutely awesome! Like it's trash, but it's so funny."
It's just one of those things where, like, well, whose music could that be? Oh no.
I thought it was a hysterical way to end. That show.
Especially when Kali is holding the belt up. He's just like, my championship.
Yeah, I was like, what are you doing, Kali? It was so funny. That was a great freaking time. Jeez, the Punjabi prison match. I just remember it being so freaking funny. But yeah, no. So on that note, it's about 10 o'clock. I know you've got to get out of here, Nate. I have a whole night of editing to do so I can get this audio out by midnight and the video out by tomorrow morning or tomorrow afternoon, early tomorrow afternoon. So yeah, don't forget to follow me on my socials, find King's Ring Podcast on those socials. Follow Nate, and also give us a vote for best wrestling podcast. Link to that is in the description below. Go vote, god damn it! Please, 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 and don't forget, obviously, next week. Rumble of Royalties, Tuesday night special edition. Myself, Willie T, and Kayfabe all coming back to talk about everything Royal Rumble. Hope to see all of you guys there, especially you, Big Ted, and maybe even you, Big Hurts. It's on Tuesday. You have no excuses. So until next week, next Tuesday, folks. Yeah, see you later. Bye.
Boy.
Bye, guys.
Hey, guys.
Midnight music.